welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Kelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 6 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin. Today we're discussing chapter 5 of A Game of Thrones, Jon 1. If you want to reach out to us, you can email us at ghosts.harrenhal@gmail.com.
You know, it's funny. This is Jon 1, but it feels more like Jon 2. Bran's chapter probably revealed more about Jon than it did about Bran.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Maybe it's easy to forget that was all Bran's perspective, but because so much of it was about Jon himself.
Yeah.
So what we'll do today is we'll summarise the chapter, discuss what we think, provide some non-spoiler background, discuss some comparisons with the TV show. Let's start with our usual summary of the chapter. McKelly.
All right. The scene is the feast to welcome the royal party to Winterfell, from Jon's perspective down in the trenchers with the riffraff and the dogs. He sees the guests of honor parade in, Catelyn with King Robert, Eddard and Queen Cersei, Sansa with Prince Joffrey, Robb with Princess Marcella, Arya with Prince Tommen, and then gets down to some serious drinking. Partly he's drinking because he's hurt that he is banished from sight by Catelyn Stark. We find that, unsurprisingly, Ghost, his direwolf, is the best trained of the children's pets. Ghost snarls down a dog twice his size over a chicken carcass. We hear of Jon's disappointment at Robert's appearance. He was expecting a legend, and instead saw a fat, sweating fool. Jon talks with his uncle Benjen from the Night's Watch. They're clearly fond of each other. Benjen is impressed that Jon noticed the hurt in Cersei's eyes when Robert insisted on visiting the crypt upon arrival. Jon expresses a desire to join the Night's Watch, but Benjen warns him not to be too hasty, to taste some life before forswearing it. Jon's convinced, but Benjen tries to dissuade him. Benjen suggests he comes back after he, Jon, has sired a few bastards of his own. Jon's anger flares and he spits out that he'd never sire a bastard. Jon staggers outside drunk and has an interesting conversation with Tyrion Lannister. Tyrion gymnastically leaps down from a high perch and meets Ghost. Jon exaggerates his control and training to scare Tyrion. The imp tells Jon that while all dwarves are bastards in their father's eyes, not all bastards need be dwarves. Jon, a bit drunk, really likes this sentiment.
Awesome. So, it's good stuff.
Yeah, not a ton. Probably of the chapters we've read so far, this one's the least as far as
I think
action.
Yeah, I think the point is to introduce some of the people. I mean, there's descriptions of the whole royal party, and then we get to meet Tyrion for the first time, which is...
We get some good physical descriptions of the characters. The night starts with laughs and ends with tears for Jon, who hasn't been there before, especially when alcohol is involved.
There's often laughter near the end of the night as well. So, Jon's youth is shown up fairly starkly. He really admires Jamie Lannister. Oh, and by the way, we've solved the mystery of the Kingslayer.
Right.
Jamie Lannister is the one.
Yes, from chapter 3. I think Dany is chapter 3, when the series is lamenting about his father being betrayed by the Kingslayer. We now know that it is the Queen's twin brother, Jamie Lannister, who's also a member of the Royal Kingsguard.
Yeah. So he also admires Daeron Targaryen and the stories, but not the reality of King Robert.
Right.
So it's kind of like any child of 14, he's taken with the surface of things, not able to see the true beneath that surface.
Although his responsibility and diligence is clearly showing up in his training of Ghost.
Yeah, if we believe him that all the other kids, direwolves, are completely untrained.
That's a good point. We are taking him at his word there.
I suspect he's telling the truth.
Yeah.
He's down in the trenches and he puts that squarely on Catelyn, that she sent him there. It's not totally surprising. Cat married Ned. He went off to war and came back with a son. Bound to cause some tension.
It is. Although it seems a bit unfair to take her tension and disappointment out on the child.
Yeah.
And even Theon Greyjoy, who's a hostage/ward, gets a place at the high table.
That's true. Yeah, it's pretty rough on Jon, that. I like the chat between Tyrion and Jon. Possibly the beginning of an unlikely friendship there.
Right, yeah. They're both outcasts in their family, or at least they're different than the rest of their siblings.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know too much yet about Cersei and Jamie, but we get a sense that Tyrion's quite a deep thinker, which is, I think, that we've been given a sense of him as being creature of, well, I'm not sure exactly how I want to put this, but the sense is that he lives up to his name, the Imp.
Right.
To discover that he's actually quite a clever person
Yes.
is somewhat surprising.
Yeah, we definitely get the sense that he's a pretty smart guy.
Yeah.
And I like some of the things that he tells Jon, like about making your shortcomings your strengths and armoring yourself with it so that you can't be hurt by whatever your particular shortcoming might be. And I also like the line about when he opened the door and the shadow cast, he was as tall as a king. I thought that was a pretty cool line.
Yeah. Yeah, and definitely that you can see how Jon, just this whole thing, his disappointment with the king, coupled with his surprisingly quite liking Tyrion,
Right.
sort of like the contrast is there.
Right.
I like the procession of the entrance into the feast. So the pairings were Ned with Cersei, sort of a mutual coldness between them.
Yep.
Robert and Cat. In my notes here it says fat and drunk. I assume that was referring to Robert, not Cat. I think Jon's a bit unfair on Princess Marcella.
He is. I thought that too, yeah.
She's only 7.
Right.
We're giving doughy eyes to Rob's not exactly surprising.
No.
To conclude that she's insipid seems just a bit mean.
Yeah. Similarly, he was kind of giving Rob a hard time for enjoying the attention he was getting, and it just seems like a natural thing that a 14-year-old boy would appreciate.
Well, let me give you an example, actually. I was in a line in a grocery store yesterday, and there was a 4-year-old girl in front of me, and she and I got talking, and she was charmed, and I was very happy. I didn't think she was insipid, or I didn't think there was anything wrong with being happy that this child liked me,
Yeah, I felt like he had a negative opinion toward all the members of the procession, except for his uncle Benjen, and that probably has something to do with him being cast out and being stuck down with the riffraff and the dogs.
Yeah.
Probably some jealousy going on there.
So we finally meet, at least by name, the rest of the Stark children. Rickon, age 3. Arya, we think around 10.
Yeah, I think, based on the ages of Sansa and Bran.
Yeah, she's accompanying Prince Tommen, the youngest of the 3 royal children. And Sansa, who's 11, with her husband-to-be, Prince Joffrey.
Yep, and all 3 of the royal children have the blonde hair and green eyes of their Lannister mother. Although a hint of Joffrey's character and his pouty lips and disdainful air, that is an interesting observation that Jon makes.
Yeah, although, as I've said, I'm beginning to doubt
Right.
the reliability of Jon as a narrator here.
That's true, especially as he gets more and more drunk.
This little girl in the line yesterday, she said, my mum is not 21, she's not 22. I said, I'm pretty sure your mum's going to want you to stop before you go much further.
Don't go much further with that.
So Rob is heir apparent to Winterfell, but Jon seems to have the characteristics to make him a great lord.
He does. It's a shame there's really not a place for him to be a lord. Because of him being a bastard. But he's got the keen eye for picking up details and reading people. But he's the only sibling that doesn't have a clear path for a successful future.
Yeah. So the Night's Watch is the way out for boys in that kind of position. He compared to a lot of the riffraff that go up to the wall, he would be a god.
Yes.
He could fill Sir Waymar Royce's
he could. That's
recently
right.
vacated boots.
Yeah, you can understand, especially from a 14-year-old boy's perspective, why he might be enamored with the Night's Watch, because it is a way up and out for him. He could be a ranger in the Night's Watch and very well respected. He's not going to...
You're not selling it to me, I've got to say. I wouldn't want it. But I mean, again, he's been brought up by a foster mother who doesn't like him.
Right. Yeah. But like you said, that's kind of Benjen's point: is taste some life. Before you.
Yeah. So Benjen's reason for hesitation on Jon joining are legitimate. It would seem. I mean, it wouldn't take much to change a kid's mind.
Right.
Once he's.
You get up there and you're like, oh no, this is not what I thought it was going to be at all. Did you notice Benjen was dressed very richly, much in the vein of Sir Waymar Royce? So I don't believe they get paychecks in the Night's Watch. So clearly he must be getting some money from
I think
his Winterfell trust fund.
It's parcels from home,
Yes. Nice care packages
Exactly,
from Ned.
So let's have a quick comparison with the television show. Generally, it was quite close. We do see the feast, but we don't really see it from Jon's perspective in the show. I mean, I think that's something that always sort of gets lost in translation between the books, because the book is, every time it's a first-person perspective of what's going on. And, of course, the show doesn't do it like that. The show gives us the holistic.
Yep.
So Jon isn't in the feast in the show. In the show, he's outside practicing his sword work.
Right.
We also, in the show, we get to see Catelyn and Cersei having a very politely restrained conversation about their children. It's not exactly friendly.
I imagine that would be the way it would go.
Probably,
based on their personalities.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Although I imagine Cersei having a conversation with Ned would probably be fairly similar.
Yeah.
It did not seem... We got in Catelyn 1... Ned's opinion on Cersei was not a big fan of Cersei. It seems like the feelings are mutual here in this chapter.
I'd say so. TV Robert seems even more boorish and lecherous than the book version. Right in front of his wife, he's kissing women and things in the TV show. So,
yep, that's not going
to be fair to Cersei, this would make anyone kind of grumpy, I would feel.
Yes, that's true. That is a good point. One thing the TV show doesn't include the story of Daeron Targaryen's conquest of Dorne, which makes sense. I mean, they've only got an hour. We've noticed they've cut out some history.
Yeah, I mean, and that is pretty long ago history right there.
Yes,
it's hard to justify
a couple hundred years ago.
Yeah. But again, it's one of the things in the book that makes Jon seem like a kid, I think, is that, he hero worships Jamie Lannister, Daeron Targaryen, and his prior image of the king.
Right, yeah, that's true. He also doesn't get drunk in the TV show.
That's true. Yeah, never goes.
Even though he's played by an adult, be more fitting for Kit Harington to get drunk than a 14-year-old boy, but that's not the way they chose to go in the TV show.
Tyrion's entrance in the book is with a gymnastic flourish, which Peter Dinklage does not do in the TV show.
We don't know what we were missing when we saw it on the TV show.
Ghost doesn't make an appearance in the TV show in this scene at all. Oh, is that right? That's right. Yeah, he doesn't. There's no ghost in this. Does
Jon even get into the feast? Do they ever show Jon in the feast?
I was just thinking that maybe Tyrion met Ghost outside, but he didn't.
Okay.
He didn't. And the TV, this is an interesting one. The TV show omits Tyrion's last line in the conversation about all dwarves are bastards, but not all bastards need be dwarves, which is the line that really touches Jon.
Yeah, right. I really like that line.
Yeah, and in actual fact, the scene in the TV show ends quite frostily. There's none of this sort of like watching him leave and seeing his shadow or anything like that. So I think, I don't know, if there was the decision to sort of prolong the antagonism between these two before they become friends. If perhaps they're going to become friends. I don't know.
The book certainly made it seem more likely.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so some non-spoiler background. The TV show skipped it, but we won't. Daeron Targaryen was the first of his name. He was the 8th Targaryen king, so about 200 years ago.
Yep.
The first to successfully bring Dorne into the Seven Kingdoms, which is then, that brings up a question in my mind, actually. I thought Dorne was one of the original Seven Kingdoms.
It was the one kingdom that Aegon the Conqueror did not bring in. Dorne's always coming and going in and out of the Seven Kingdoms, it seems.
So did they call... But it is one of the seven.
Yes. I've got some detailed background information on Dorne I'll give here in a minute.
Okay, that sounds good. Something for all of us to look forward to. So Dorne had resisted to that point. Daeron was dashing and brave and all the things Jon thinks he was, but he was also a bit crazy, apparently. Yeah. His own accounts of the campaign were well written, but horribly exaggerated. And he was assassinated by men from Dorne when he was only 18, so...
Ouch. So speaking of Dorne, here's that information about Dorne that I promised you earlier. So Dorne is the southernmost kingdom of Westeros. They're ruled by House Martell. Dorne is the hottest region of Westeros, so Ned would hate it there. Dornish people have dark eyes, olive skin, and hair in ringlets. The kingdom came and went from rule of the Iron Throne for a long time with much bloodshed, until King Daeron II and Prince Meryn Martell, through peaceful negotiations, officially brought Dorne into the Seven Kingdoms. Through the negotiations, the Martells are allowed to continue to use the title Prince or Princess of Dorne.
Yeah, it's interesting that as well, because it's not the same King Daeron. It's King Daeron II who actually negotiated the peaceful entrance of Dawn into the Seven Kingdoms.
Yes.
So
Many
again,
generations after
yes,
Daeron the First.
Right. So after years of bloodshed precipitated by Daeron the First, who is
Right.
Jon's hero, and but peaceful negotiations made it all happen
Yes.
in the end. So
You notice the 14-year-old boy wasn't all excited
about the peaceful negotiations,
Right.
yes. Yeah.
That doesn't fit with 14-year-old boys.
Kids today.
Yeah.
So, House Martell, or more formally House Nymeros Martell of Sunspear, is one of the great houses of the Seven Kingdoms. They're the ruling house of Dawn. The current lord is Doran Martell. Their full title refers to the union between the Martells and the warrior queen Nymeria about 1,000 years ago. Their sigil is a spear passing through a red sun on an orange background. This was derived from both the Martell and Nymerian emblems. Their words are unbowed, unbent, unbroken. Mm-hmm. In recent times, the alliance between the Martells and the Targaryens, which was formalized back by Prince Marin and King Daeron, has been cemented by the marriage of Elia Martell, who's Doran's sister, to Rhaegar Targaryen, who's Daenerys' big brother. Her death and the death of her 2 children at the end of Robert's rebellion is a wound that presumably hasn't completely healed in Sunspear.
Right. We also meet House Lannister. It's one of the great houses of the Seven Kingdoms. Their seat is Casterly Rock, but it's also a prominent house in Lannisport. They are the Wardens of the West. They ruled as kings of the Rock until Aegon's conquering. Their words are, "Hear me roar," although many believe them to be a Lannister always pays his debts. Their current lord is Tywin Lannister. Tywin was once hand of the king to Aerys Targaryen. I guess they were kind of buddies back in their younger days. Aerys Targaryen being also referred to as the Mad King. Until a falling out splintered their relationship. I don't want to go too much into it because that's kind of a storyline. It's something you learn later on, but they do have a falling out that splinters their relationship. And given Aerys' subsequent behavior, Tywin seems a bit lucky to still be with us.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Right.
Aerys didn't ordinarily tolerate people disagreeing with him.
Right.
It seems. Yeah. So, Jamie Lannister. So we've solved the mystery of who was the Kingslayer. It's Jamie Lannister. He is and was a member of the King's Guard, so his job was to protect King Aerys, and he ended up killing him.
Right, that's a fail. That is job fail.
Yeah. What's interesting is that Robert kept him on as a King's Guard, despite, I mean, that's a forgiving employer, right?
Yes,
there. I suppose he's forgiving him because Robert owes his job to the fact that
he killed him on his behalf.
Exactly.
Or, I don't know if it was on his behalf, but him killing Aerys worked out in Robert's favor.
Was a prerequisite for Robert to get the job where he could decide whether or not the Kingslayer got to remain the King's Guard.
But you would be a little, his one job is to protect the king, and he did the exact opposite of that. So
He didn't just let the king die. He took care of it. It's like the goalkeeper catches the ball and turns around and smashes it into his own net.
Then he starts the next game.
Yeah. So, the other thing is, I mean, this goes back to the TV show differences. While this scene was very similar, we'd actually already met the Lannister brothers in the TV show by this point. There's a scene that predates the feast where Tyrion is in a brothel in Winterfell, and we get to see that side of his character, the misbehaving side.
I have 2 thoughts on that.
Uh-huh.
One, a brothel in Winterfell just does not, I don't know.
Well, yeah.
I just don't see Ned
allowing it.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy. But, he's got men that...
Yes, he does. It's going to be hard to say no to them.
Right.
But I would imagine it would be on the outside of Winterfell.
Right,
yes. Sort of like, sort of a shanty town. Right. Outside the walls of Winterfell somehow.
My other thought on that is, then this goes back to the comparison between the TV show and the book. So we've kind of gotten away from background info here. We're going back to previous sections. But one thing that struck me when I started reading the books after I had watched the first 4 or 5 seasons of the TV show was that the TV show felt like a really kind of a raunchy show. There was a lot of brothel sex scenes, and there's just not that many scenes that take place in a brothel. There's not that many sex scenes in general in the book. And I'm not saying I was disappointed. I'm just saying I was surprised. I expected it to be a more raunchy type situations in the book, and there's not that many.
I think the other thing that happens in that scene that we don't have in the book is that we see an interaction between Jamie and Tyrion, and you see a fondness from Jamie for Tyrion. He likes him and finds him kind of funny and interesting.
Yeah.
Which sort of humanizes Jamie a little bit. I mean, as an inscrutable Kingsguard and a sinister Kingslayer.
Right.
It's you're not necessarily going to see him as a rounded character, but he definitely has a fondness for his little brother, and his little brother has got several reasons to want friends.
Yes.
It's not his, as he says, all fathers see dwarves as bastards.
Right. Yeah. He's not turning away friends at the door.
Right.
He can use as many as he can get, right. I guess.
Okay, my favourite part, pedantry corner. There's not a lot here, but I am curious as to how Tyrion got up onto the shelf above the... Because Jon offers to get a ladder to bring him down.
He must be a ways up there.
Yeah, I mean...
Maybe he had a ladder, got up there, kicked it over, so it looked more...
So Jon actually meant, you want me to get this ladder for you? Are you stuck?
I think just...
There's gymnastic aptitude, and then there's just too high. That's really too high, I think. So we have some listener mail.
We do, yes. So we got an email. It's signed Dieter Pinklage, but I believe it might be from our friend Dan.
Again.
Yeah.
Dan. I mean, again, same email address.
Right.
And he's been asking about it, asking us about it at lunch.
He's not masking very well.
No, he's not. It's Dan.
So basically what Dan is asking is, and I don't want to read the whole email because there's some what we have deemed spoilerish type information in it. But he's basically saying, is Ned oblivious to the omens that should be clear to a spiritual man of the old gods, or is he acutely aware of them but doing his duty anyway?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question. We talked about this a little bit when we talked about the omens that Ned was seeing.
Should we rehash the omens?
Well, that would be initially his discovering that at least somebody from the Night's Watch believes he's seen White Walkers.
Right.
That a dire wolf was killed by choking on a stag's antler. That's it, I suppose, for Ned. We also threw in dragons, but he didn't hear anything about dragons. Ned's not reading the book like we are. But,
if only.
But I mean, I think I got to conclude, and Dieter Pinklage or Dan asks the question. It's key to understanding his character, which of those two things you think he is, which camp you're in. I gotta say, I think he sees these omens. I don't think he's not seeing these omens. And in some ways,
I agree.
He isn't still doing his duty. If you remember, he was arguing with Cat about not wanting to go to...
Right.
He recognized the omens and was trying to get out of it, but he is duty bound to do the things he's being asked to do.
He was on Team Winterfell.
He certainly was, yeah.
Now, you're right. If he was blind to the omens, he still doesn't want to go.
Right.
Regardless, he doesn't want to go because he wants to be home in Winterfell.
But he might say yes. If it wasn't for the omens, he might have been like,
maybe
this will be fun, couple of years, a bit of sunshine.
Yeah.
Winter's coming.
Yeah. Maybe he could stop saying that for a little while.
Perhaps. Really, everyone in King's Landing will look at him like, what the heck are you talking about? But yeah, no, it's a really interesting. But certainly that's my take on it. I don't think he's not seeing these omens the way we are. But
I agree.
We do appreciate the email, and we hope for more. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Dan. Or Dieter.
Thanks. Notes and corrections. Xena wrote in to tell us that Simon's too quiet and McKelly's too loud. So I'm sitting a bit closer to the mic.
And I've been gagged.
Gagged and bound.
I am trying to keep my voice a more even tone today.
Yeah. You can't help getting excited. That's understandable.
It's just such a fun...
Exactly.
I have so much fun when we do this.
Exactly. Honestly, the real problem is... I mean, not to undermine our professionalism here,
right?
But we are using a borrowed microphone, and it's if we had friends who had better microphones,
right.
I think we'd be doing a much better job at it.
Secondhand mics, we have to live with our limitations.
Yeah. Once we get those corporate sponsors rolling in, we'll get this fixed. Don't you worry. But thank you for contacting us, Xena.
Yes, we appreciate the feedback.
All right. So in conclusion, not terribly eventful, but we're racking up the characters now.
Yep.
Having to proliferate.
And we're fleshing out Jon.
Yep.
He's a mix of maturity and childishness, which he's a 14-year-old boy, so as to be expected.
Yep. We begin to get descriptions of the Starks and the Baratheons. and some insights into them as people. Although, again, from Jon's perspective. But
Right.
Tyrion in particular seems more intelligent and perhaps misunderstood or underestimated by people.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Robert was a disappointment to him.
He was. All right, so that's all for this episode.
That's
Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying it. We'd also love to hear from you. ghost.harrenhall@gmail.com.
All right. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.